3 years ago, Takunda Mavima had the world by the tail. He was an immigrant child whose family had worked its way into Middle America. He was an honor student who'd recently attended his senior prom, and with a scholarship to Grand Valley State University, he was poised to enroll in the pre-pharmacy program and chase his professional dreams. Then a night of drinking turned his life literally upside down. Today in studio, we look at tragedy, forgiveness, and a rise from the ashes. Takunda, welcome to Feel Like You Belong.
Thank you, Alan. It's a pleasure.
Your parents came to the United States when you were what age?
I was not even 1 year old, probably 9 months, if anything.
So your recollection of that time is
non-existent.
Nothing. Is nothing.
Yeah.
Your family came from Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, yep.
Yep. And you lived and grew up in a household where you were Zimbabwean. You spoke Shona at home. The culture was African.
Right.
Surrounded by the United States of America. How does that work growing up like that?
It's tough because, there is this conflict between my parents who are trying to raise me in the traditional Zimbabwean sense, very conservative, very straight and narrow, but yet I had these walls, and on the other side is America, and I have to try fitting in with my friends, try interacting with all these other different cultures too. So it was definitely an experience growing up.
What was an experience that you remember when you said, "Oh, these are my parents. These are my friends' parents. These are not."
It was just so many instances where.
Like, did your parents not let you do sleepovers or what?
For a while there, yeah. For a while they were apprehensive, like, oh, you can't just go over to any person's house down the street. They were always worried about who was going to influence me. So they were when my friends were hanging out with all my other friends, my mom and dad wanted to do background checks on everyone. You know, they needed to know who was going to be with me, who was going to be taking me around.
Doing their due diligence, like, are you worthy of my child?
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
You know, they just don't want America to ruin me or something.
Okay. So at one level, you get that this is an act of love. On the other hand, you're going,
like,
this is the way they do things
right,
here.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was always kind of like I was an ambassador in my own home, you know. Okay. Yeah.
So negotiating between those two cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to go back 3 years ago, May 20th, 2012.
Yeah.
Your life severely altered. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was a Saturday. I started off the day average. My friends, who were all teenagers, they were texting me saying, hey, let's do something tonight. I have something planned.
And this is just 2 weeks after your prom?
Yeah, this is 2 weeks after my prom. And it was in that kind of sensitive time of the year where everyone has senioritis, which is just the deficiency to want to do anything your last few weeks of school.
Yep.
And also we were coming to this point where we're graduating, like extreme accomplishment, right? We finally were done. So that night, Saturday, we were willing to just let go of all of our apprehensions and just let loose. Basically what happened was I was invited to this party. It was a good friends of mine, and they stayed on campus to the university, and I was just
Now your family lived about a half an hour from the campus, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Half an hour, 20 minutes.
And so how did you get to the campus, to the party?
I drove. I drove. It was my plan that I was going to bring two of my friends with me to this party, and we were going to meet up with all of our other friends.
Now, what did you tell your conservative African parents about?
Well, at that point, you know, they did recognize that I was keeping my head on straight and that I did have things a little bit figured out. I did
You'd
show
had a good track
responsibility.
record up until
Yeah,
this point.
I showed responsibility.
Okay, you were an honor student,
I
so
was an honor student, so they were a bit more lenient at that point. They're like, okay, yeah, you can go out, hang out with your friends, sure. You can take the car. So I actually took my mother's car, rode out there with my two friends, and we got there. The people were drinking. I decided that I was going to drink a beer or two, and
up until that time, how many beers had you had in your life? A few.
a few, yeah. So I'm 17 years old. I am underweight. I'm a scrawny little kid, and I am drinking these beers thinking that, oh, it's just one beer, maybe it's just two beers, and I will be fine. But when you look at the situation to the point where a 17-year-old who doesn't drink very often is letting loose with all of his friends, it's just a very bad cocktail. There's things.
A lot of logic goes out the window.
A lot of logic goes out the window, exactly. So I'm with all my friends, and there is campus security outside, and we all decide that we need to get out of here. We're underage. We don't want to get caught. MIPs, minors in possession. So I lived next to all of my friends. So when
And
we
you had the
decided
car?
to, yeah, and I had the car, and when we decided to leave, many other people, including my two friends that came with me, were asking me for rides, and yeah, sure, I got you. You just hop in. I can fit 4 in the back and 2 up front. And so that's what we did.
6 people, but 5 seat belts.
Yeah, it was a Honda Accord, not a very big car. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning.
So by this point, you'd had more than just a few beers.
Just a few, yeah.
Okay.
Just a few.
Okay.
I remember the crash investigator and the toxicologist told me that my blood alcohol content was at a 0.10. So 0.02 over the legal limit if you're 21. But then again, I am just a 17-year-old kid, and I am not experienced.
So you had left the university, you're all the way down the highway, down I-196,
Yeah.
almost home.
Yeah, I'm probably 90% of the way there, and, you know, it was the home stretch, literally. But it was dark. The music was going. We're all talking. Well, on I-96, there's this curve that veers off for the exit. And guessing, I tried to navigate the curve, but I was also going too fast, and we ended up going off the edge. Since there was only 3 seat belts in the back seat, the 4 people didn't decide to share, so I don't remember any of them wearing seat belts.
Yeah.
Me and my friend up front, we were, and that probably saved our lives. My 2 friends that were in the back, Timmy C. and Krista Howell, they were ejected from the car and they were killed on impact.
What do you remember from the crash?
I remember just the aftermath.
So
I remember
like waking up?
Waking up. I remember one of my friends was calling my name, and I looked. I was in a haze, and well, one friend is over here with saying that he might not be able to walk because his back is feeling bad. Another friend over here, he's just walking around with a broken arm. And then there's Timmy C, and he's laying on the ground, and they were beating on his chest and trying to. And I went to Krista and tried doing whatever I knew how to do. But at that moment, I was starting to realize that it was far beyond anything. So sirens are going in the background, and police cars are starting to pull up. The next thing I remember, I think they got my breath. They gave me a breathalyzer, put me in the back seat of the cop car, and I've never been in the back seat of a cop car. I've never ever thought I would be at that moment. I'm just telling the officers in the front everything I'm telling you now, exactly what happened, and that's
So
about it.
when does it start to sink in what's happened because of your driving?
It's, like, I'm still dealing with wrapping my head around the situation, knowing that you're responsible not just for one life being gone, but for two lives being gone. It's heavy. Soon after that crash, when they were bringing me, they stopped by the hospital so they could see if I was okay before I went to jail, and but I was starting to get hysterical, and I think that was when I was like, okay. That was when the tears started to really hit me, and
When you realized,
yeah,
this is what I've done.
Yeah, to the point where I had to, be sedated because I just was frantic.
So what's the time period between the crash and your trial?
About 3 months. So it was May 20th to September 10th was when I got sentenced.
Okay.
So the summer of 2012 was,
Because when we were talking earlier, I shared with you that having, being a father of two daughters, can't imagine, not being able to imagine the sadness of a parent in that situation. Can you talk about remorse?
Yeah, I can.
You've had 3 years to.
Yeah, I can. It's the thing about it is that getting to the point where you can start even feeling forgiveness for yourself, or feeling even like sadness for yourself, you have to realize that it's not enough just to say sorry. It's not enough just to there's nothing ever enough. So remorse is just something that's a part of my life now. It's not.
It's the new reality.
It's a new reality.
Yeah.
I'm just a remorseful person now.
Before the sentencing, Timmy's parents actually pleaded with the judge to give you 0 time.
Yeah.
And as I reflect on that, that's what seems to be a profound sense of forgiveness.
Exactly.
Can you talk about forgiveness?
Forgiveness. Not a few days after the accident. I mean, this is maybe a day after I got out of jail. I spent 3 days in jail before I knew what everything was going to happen. So I spent 3 days in jail, and I got out the next day. And then the day after that, the C family, or Timmy C Sr., called me on the phone, and all he said was, "I love you, and we want to see you as soon as you're ready to talk. We would love to have you in our home." And
That's pretty profound.
it's there's never a moment where I'm not thinking about that moment,
Yeah.
because the love that the C family has shown since the beginning, and the Howells have shown too, has been just so
'Cause
immaculate. It's been so divine. It's God given. I mean, these people have opened me up. I mean, opened their arms to me. No questions asked.
in the face of this profound loss,
Yeah,
to be shown this
exactly.
this profound love is.
It was unbearable. I couldn't believe it that that they weren't coming after me. It's because that's how I felt about myself. I was putting myself down so much that I couldn't even believe that these people, of all people, are going to be showing me this amount of love. So while forgiveness, I mean, forgiveness saved my life.
So you spent 2.5 years in prison,
Mm-hmm.
and were released this past springtime. So you've
Yeah,
been out
in March.
about 6 months.
6 months yesterday.
Okay. You're now on the campus at Grand Valley State University and pursuing a delayed dream, but you're also doing some speaking in the local high schools.
Yeah, I've been getting into that. It was something that when I went to prison, I was conflicted on what I could do to, how I could just spread my story. And when I got out, all these, my principal and these administrators were saying, hey, whenever you want to talk to this group of kids, let's do it. And it started off with like 20 or 30, and then another gig with 20 or 30 high schoolers, and then 150, and then 300, about their seniors. So it was.
And that last group was actually very poignant because that was Krista's graduating class.
Yeah,
she
that
was
was
15 at the time of the crash.
Yeah, that was at Wyoming High. So Krista Howell was 15, so she was a freshman in high school, and I got out in spring, right when these kids were about to graduate. Her class was going to graduate, so even the fact that I even had that opportunity to talk to them before they were in the same situation, in the same mindset that I was.
So what do you tell high school students when you talk to them?
Basically, it's all surrounded with the one message of one choice, that they have these options in their life to live responsibly, to be safe, to think about their future. They have this one choice, and it's not just with drinking and driving. It's with like it could be with teen pregnancies or something. It's all about making sure that the choices that they make are for the well-being of themselves, their friends, their families, their teachers that spent so much time trying to raise them up. It's the one choice that they will probably have to make every single day.
So if people want to get in touch with you and maybe have you come speak to their group, how do they contact you?
They can reach me at onechoice520@gmail.com, or they can hashtag my Twitter name, and that's also onechoice520 on Twitter.
Okay. Well, we'll put that up on the screen to share with our viewers, because this is one of your new lifetime commitments.
Yeah.
To speak about responsibility. Yeah. We have to wrap up in a minute, but I want to go back to something you said earlier, talking about communities together raising up the youth of those communities. And so it's really an entire effort. When you got out, what was the response to your community from family, from friends, from your church?
Well, let's start from when I got into the accident. It was 100% love and caring. I didn't even know how much I didn't even think I was relevant in my community.
Okay.
But when I started seeing these letters from random people come through, these messages online just showing all love and support, and it went far beyond just Wyoming. I mean, there was people from all over the state. There was people from different parts of the country that have heard about the story, and they just were sending so much love. So, community has been everything.
Mm-hmm. So, and what about your church? You had talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, my church, my faith, raised Catholic. I go to St. John Vianney, and they're the best people. You know, if it wasn't for the love that they have showed me, that God above has showed me, you know, it's that forgiveness that is so divine that you see, that I see, and I feel just like God's love. You know, it's so hard to describe, but
Sure. Sure.
my faith appears in different ways every day.
Well, we certainly want to wish you the best on your journey. You've got some serious studies to do. You are going to become a professional, and you're going to go out in the community and do great things. And so we look forward to following your career. And do stay in touch with us, because however we can support you, you're doing some important things.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Thanks for joining us on Feel Like You Belong. Do remember to get in touch with Takunda via email or Twitter. And until next time, let's all remember to make smart choices.